No sense irritating the press.
Please rise and join us in the pledge.
Hold on, let me okay.
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to the Board of Supervisors meeting, February the 1st, 2022. This is a month that all of you gentlemen out there buy your loved ones some candy. Is there any changes to the agenda?
I have
I have none. Meet with department heads and elected officials. Sarah, how's the auditor's office?
Going good. Staying busy at the moment. Nothing new to report at this time.
Okay, thank you. Colin, IT.
Just keeping busy like always, but nothing new to report, so.
I do have something to ask you.
Sure.
I had coffee with Mr. Ward Saturday morning,
Oh, yeah?
and he wants to know when you're gonna come out and cut that wood.
Oh, my gosh. It's my father-in-law.
Yeah. He said he's been waiting 15 years. He said, when he asked me if I could marry my daughter, he said, and I'll even help you cut wood.
He's brought that up before, so.
I'm
So
disappointed.
he wanted me to ask you so it'd be on record so he could get that.
Oh, great. Thanks for that.
Sorry, Colin.
That's all right.
Sheriff Glendenning.
Good morning. Things are going well. Our jail population's at 71. Interesting turn of events is we're holding 2 out of county. So we're holding 2 females. We had room in our female cell, so we're holding them for Jackson County. We have 3 going out probably today, 2 to Oakdale and 1 to Missouri, and 2 of those out of county are juveniles. We have our youth academy that's starting up. Our deadline is next Monday for applications. So if anybody knows any area youth that would be interested in that, 16 to 18 years old, it's going to be every Wednesday night starting March 2nd for about, through middle of May. Every Wednesday night for a couple hours, and we just go through a bunch of different planned training events and try to keep it interesting, hands-on, and interactive. So if you know of anybody that's interested, they've got about a week to turn in an application. We'd love to have them.
Where'd they pick those applications up?
At the sheriff's office, or they can call or email, and we can send that to them as well. And the Shaka Khan Boat Club, they had a fundraiser for the K-9 unit for both Des Moines County and Burlington. We were able to get $1,250. They split the donations between us and Burlington, so we thank them for that. That'll help sustain that program, the K-9 program, for the future. And just a plug for the Crime Stoppers event, which is coming up February 12th at Memorial Auditorium. So if you're available February 12th, come out to the Crime Stoppers event.
Kevin, does that SRO officers get some recruits for that academy for the kids?
Do they what?
Do they get some recruits for you? through the
For sure,
school?
yeah. So we advertise throughout the schools, and we push that out to all the SROs throughout Burlington and the county. And usually it's really slow in the application process because we started about a month ago, and we just had a couple as of last week. Usually it's the last week that they pick up, and we take up to 10 applicants. We took 11 last year. All 11 that started the youth academy, they finished it, so that was a really neat deal that we just kept them involved, and they stayed with it throughout the program.
Good, cool. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely.
Lisa Schaefer, County Attorney.
Nothing new to report. We're just staying busy with jury trials.
One right after the other, huh? Thanks, Lisa. Zach James, Regional Planning.
Yeah, not a whole lot to report. We had a board of adjustment meeting last week for a variance request down in the Glenmark subdivision. Got a floodplain development permit request and a couple subdivisions upgraded, but otherwise just
One
got
new
a
one
work,
today.
got a work session again, hopefully the last one. Have the meeting today, so.
Okay. Jared, do you have anything to add to that?
Nope.
Nothing at all. Okay, thanks both of you. Chris Lee, County Conservation.
Good morning, just board meeting tomorrow night, and then today, the staff and I are gonna be going out trying to set some poles out from the beach to, we're gonna try to establish some duckweed barriers out from that, so since we've got good ice, we're gonna be out trying to get that done since we've got a decent day, we've got some weather coming, so I got here as soon as I can. And then I will note, they must be catching fish out of Big Hollow, I got a picture sent to me. There was like a dozen trucks lined up on Danville Road. I don't know if you've heard any complaints about this, but people park on the south side of Big Hollow and walk down through the woods because that's the shortest route to get to the apparently spot of the lake that all the crappie are biting on. So just cognizant of that, it's peak crappie season through the ice apparently, and we're drawing people from far and wide. I mean, you drive through there, it's license plates from counties hours away, and so. So as near as I can tell, they haven't blocked up any traffic, but there's, the picture I got was like a dozen trucks lined up on the side of the road parked there. So, is the seat.
Thanks, Luke. Chris? No Longquist, Treasurer. How's everything going there?
We're plugging along, it's busy, but nothing new to report.
Okay, thank you. Ken Heinlein, field agent for mental health.
Yeah, good morning. Cheryl and I kind of looked at MHDS budgets, but, you know, we've turned in numbers to Tammy, and now we wait for Tammy, who's doing all 8 counties' budget now, since it's money in, money out from the state for next year. Tammy's gonna turn something into Cheryl, and that's what she'll plug in, but it won't be county tax dollars, it'll be state dollars.
State dollars.
Other than that, I know I have a meeting coming up in the next week to talk about 2080 agreements with the counties, and once we get those on through the governing board, I'm sure each county will get a 2080 agreement, some revisions to that, so, for the region. Still work in progress for things starting July 1.
It's been a work in progress for a long time.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ken.
Thank you.
Mr. Carter, Secondary Road.
Good morning. Guys are out cutting trees. That's kind of been the theme whenever we're not plowing snow. So got quite a bit of tree cutting done, clearing out. And we'll keep doing that as long as it's frozen. So and we're plenty frozen at the moment. I would mention that I think we're not winding up, but we're late in the budget season and some other stuff. So I'm going to try to contact a few other counties and see how they've handled the pipeline inspection stuff, and maybe set up a work session just to make sure we're all on the same page, or send an email. I know Terry's had a few requests come through her, and I've had a request. So I want to check with some other counties, see how they've handled it. I don't know that we owe everybody some sort of an interview that just because they're asking, so I just want to look into it, and I'll try to get back to you guys when I know more. So maybe next week I'll have a little more information. I just thought I'd let you know that I'll try to spend a little more time on that coming up.
Okay. Mr. Stevens got a hold of him, and he said to thank you for getting them trees taken care of out there.
Oh, good deal.
They did a good job on it.
Well, I appreciate that from him, and our guys do a nice job. So it's some of the folks to the east weren't thrilled because they considered that a part of their visual buffer between Beaverdale and but there's still plenty of trees there, and when the leaves come on, they'll be just fine. But they didn't actually do all that much because it's kind of rough terrain through there. But so good deal, and yeah, other than that, we're moving along. We did get our 2 new plow trucks in that we ordered forever ago, so hopefully if we get a little snow, they'll be running. We'll just see what we
don't
get.
get using this year.
So
So,
I'm with you. We could wait till next winter, that's all right. So anyway, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We got, how's the safety committees going?
We're doing good, everything's going fine, nothing really new to report.
Okay, thank you. And our recorder's office, Natalie?
Good morning, just business as usual in the recorder's office.
Okay, thank you. And Krista, how's the COVID doing?
Well, we continue to have some high numbers. We're at 22% with 258 cases in the last 7 days.
So the cases are starting to, they've come down a little bit, but we're hoping that it'll continue to come down. We're continuing doing vaccines and definitely just continually encourage everyone to use mitigation strategies.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on, correspondence. Any of you gentlemen have any correspondence?
Did not.
I did not either. We'll move on to discussion and vote. We have accounts payable claims in an amount of $1,411,699.07.
Move to approve.
Second.
Sarah?
Shane McCampbell,
Aye.
Tom Broker,
Aye.
Jim Carrey.
Yes. Okay, now we have a approval of a DHS relocation lease proposal. We have, in front of us, we have two proposals to discuss.
I went through those numbers and got them sort of summarized here if you want them.
I went, yeah, you go ahead, I went through them.
I know you guys did too. We're gonna have to move, the county has to provide DHS office space and some office expenses, and, because the state says we do. Anyway, so we're gonna have to relocate them. They're currently at Harmony Church in the former Tom's Market. And so we got two proposals. We got some specifications from the from DHS, State Department, or not the State Department, the Iowa State Department of Human Services. Anyway, we got two quotes. We had the first quote was from Westland Mall, and they were quoting 8,000 square feet, and they had rent for $12 a square foot times $8,000, or 8,000 square foot, which is $96,000. But they, and with an annual 1.5% increase for the first 10 years. But then for the build out, they charged $10.82 a square foot times 8,000 for 10 years.
That's $865,000.
800, yep, so we've got $96,000 and $86,560, so for 10 years it would be, not counting the annual 1.5% increase, which is negligible in the comparison, $182,560. The one thing is that's, the utilities are included out there. So we got another quote from Terrace Real Estate Group, and for 6,868 square feet. The rent's $18 a square foot, which would be $123,624, and with a 2% annual increase over the 10-year lease. The build-out was included in that price. And so utilities aren't included, so we kind of took an average for the county, maybe $1.50 a square foot, which would add about $10,302 to that. So the Terrace quote for the 10 years, excluding the 2% annual increases, is $133,926. So that puts the Terrace Real Estate Group about $48,634 per year under the Westland Mall, which, as you can talk about, I would make the motion that we accept a proposal from Terrace Real Estate Group and have the county attorney's office start the process of executing a lease agreement.
I'd second that.
Sarah?
Tom Broker,
Yes.
Shane McCampbell,
Yes.
Jim Carrey.
Yes.
Thank you to Terrace.
Are you able to say where that's at?
Oh, I'm sorry, that's, it's I don't remember the exact address.
Ryan.
It's the former Ryan Steakhouse building out on Agency, is it
3535 Agency Street.
3535 Agency Street? So, I'm sure the county attorney's office will be getting ahold of somebody and get that sorted out. Thank you, that'll be me. Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. We have a memorandum of understanding with Danville Telecom regarding the ARP fund. Let me throw a comment in here. Thanks to the county attorney for getting on it. I got to them late anyway, and so, too late for last week, but anyway, they got right on it, so, thanks, Lisa. Appreciate that. The memorandum of understanding is entered into you between the Des Moines County, Iowa Board of Supervisors and Danville Mutual Telephone Company. Do you want me to read this whole thing to you?
No, but, yeah, well, the three of us, I know you guys have read it, so the,
Anybody out there have any objections if we do our thing here?
I was just scratching my.
You thought that was funny when you said it. This is just
It's between us and for the ARP money for expansion on broadband for all of Des Moines County that they cover. So it's for $355,000 in the ARP money.
I move that we accept that.
Okay.
Second,
Sarah?
Shane McCampbell,
Yep.
Tom Broker,
yes.
Jim Carrey.
Yes. Okay, we have a resolution 2022-006, cancel outstanding checks over 1 year old.
We've got Pioneer
skipped
Cemetery.
something.
Pioneer Cemetery,
We
commission
do?
officers first.
Oh, we do. That's what I got out here. I marked that off. That's what I got. Pioneer Cemetery. Sorry about that, people. Pioneer Cemetery Commission of Officers membership and annual report. Says here, gentlemen, at the Pioneer Cemetery Commission meeting held by emails and at Aspen Grove Cemetery, members elected Herb Price as the chairman, Mike Bloomer as vice chair, Wendell Biggs as the secretary treasurer for the 2022 year. Terms of Herb Price, Steve Stoller, Drew DeLong were approved for 3 more years until January meeting 2025. 9 active members, and the expiration date of each is listed with attached membership list. This also includes our associate members. We have added quality 3 additional associate members for 2022. So this was on January the 1st, 2022. We do have a list of members here, and these people, I want to read their names because what they do is, for me, is really important, you know, for the county, keeping up these old cemeteries. We have a Michael Allen, Wendell Biggs, Mike Bloomer, Drew DeLang, Paul French, Kenton Klink, Alan Moore, Herb Price, Steve Stoller. The associate members are Bob Brewer, Terry Johnson, William Walker, Fred Wetzel, Gary Dean, Carol Beating, and Chris Hill. And we have Matt Morrison. So, what's your,
I move that we approve the cemetery commission officers' membership in their annual report.
Second.
Sarah?
Shane McCampbell,
Yep.
Tom Broker,
Yes.
Jim Carrey.
Yes. Now we can move on to the resolution canceling outstanding check. It's over a year old. And, we have outstanding checks, of general basic, $615.69. And secondary roads, $192.73. And we have a, for the Seal region, $1,785.06. Grand total of $2,593.48.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Sarah?
Tom Broker,
Yes.
Shane McCampbell,
Yes.
Jim Carrey.
Yes. We have personnel actions, one for the correction center, and James Pleasant, or the last name Pleasant. He's a correctional officer full-time, 8.25 hours of unpaid time.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Sarah?
Tom Broker,
Yes.
Shane McCampbell,
Yes.
Jim Carrey.
Yes. We have reports. We have a Dewey Buyer Trust report. And we also have this packet here of it. And these will be on file in the auditor's office for reviewing at your own discretion. We have the minutes for the regular meeting on January 25th, 2022.
Move to approve.
Second.
Sarah?
Shane McCampbell,
Yes.
Tom Broker,
Yes.
Jim Carrey.
Yes. Do we have any other business?
I have none.
I have.
I have none. Future agenda items. You gonna be through with you today, Zach?
Hope so. We'll probably have, as soon as we get through everything, we'll probably have some public hearings, or, I don't know, we need a couple weeks lead time, I think, on that. We gotta get it published, but for actual approval for those items that we've been reviewing, so. Those will be coming up, but we'll talk to Terry and Sarah about that.
Committee reports.
I have none.
I attended the emergency management / DESCOM meeting Thursday. I think it was Thursday. Anyway, and we approved preliminary budgets for DESCOM and emergency management, that we gave them some things to update on that and set the date for the public hearing of, I believe, February 24th. I'm not positive about that. I didn't write it down on anything I have access to, but so, and that's all I have.
Okay, I attend Southeast Iowa Regional Planning.
Oh, and I apologize. I attended the COBCO meeting, and the county's insurance went down about 4.5%. It is good.
4.5%.
Did good. It's good. So that's the county's cost from COBCO. Okay, I apologize for interrupting you.
No, that's good. Anyway, I attended the Southeast Iowa Regional Planning meeting, and they did honor Lon Stroessel with a plaque for his years of service, which I thought was great. And then Alan Shealy, he's a deceased firefighter that worked 43 years for the city of Danville, and he was assistant fire chief, and he passed away last winter.
Didn't he die suddenly?
Yeah,
No.
well, he had cancer.
Had he? Okay.
Yeah, but he worked right up to a couple of days before he really went, yeah. And with that being said, then they had an election of officers, and I don't know how this is gonna work, but they elected me the treasurer.
Congratulations.
I took Hans's place. I said, I got some big shoes to fill.
I think the only worst I say, you'll be all right.
Okay. Outside of that, I have nothing else. Okay, we have public input. If anybody wants to call in, they can call 319-753-8203, extension 4. That's 319-753-8203, extension 4. Or they can email board@dmcounty.com, and that'd be board@dmcounty.com, and we will give you 2 minutes to do that. Does anybody in here have anything?
I do need to put, the Joint Safety Committee's 28E agreement on next week's agenda. It's just no changes, it's just added West Burlington.
Okay.
We did that before COVID, and then COVID hit, and everything got,
If you'll get that to Terry or Sarah.
yeah.
Thank you.
Well, it's awful quiet out there. Have you got a sharp saw?
He's got plenty.
You got plenty of them.
My father.
Well, the reason why he brings it up is when I was younger and wife and I were dating at the time, I used to go over there and help him cut wood.
Yeah.
But he gives me grief every once in a while because after we got married, I don't go out there as much.
So you got what you want, so now you just sit on out.
Yeah.
Now we know who the real Colin is.
Well, I did stick up for you, Colin.
I appreciate it.
We've had him awful busy down there, and he really don't have time to cut wood.
When I showed up at my father-in-law's house after we'd been married, he lived down in Wayzata County out in the country. And I realized when I pulled into the driveway, he had some trees back there, and there would be a chainsaw leaning against the closest tree, and we'd go in there, everybody'd say hi. He said, would you take a look at something? He'd point up in the tree somewhere, and he said, any idea on how to get that dead branch out there? So I'd climb the tree with a rope, pull up the chainsaw. You would have thought he remembered the procedure, but each time I had to refresh him on how it worked, but the chainsaw was always there.
I got some dead limbs in my tree, Tom.
It's been some time since I've climbed a tree.
I would video that.
I hope you have lots of film.
Make sure that he was safe.
Oh, of course, of course.
Make sure he was safe.
Well, maybe at my house, you know.
Time is up with an eye, we're out of here.
Aye.
We're gonna take a little break here before we go into our airport workstation.
You're the one that we were most.
And then we're gonna talk, public health building too.
Okay, are you ready?
Yep. We are here with regional planning with Jared Lassiter and Zach James for airport regulations. So Zach, we'll let you take it away.
Yeah, so last week we got started on this. I was going through a presentation that gave an overview of the ordinance itself. I think I gave you guys a copy of the ordinance. I don't know if you guys have looked at it all, but essentially with the presentation, when I got up to section 58.06, I don't know if you got the ordinance in front of you, that's basically where I'm at.
5806.
Yeah, general zone regulations.
Page 7.
Yep.
That's about where I got up to, is starting to cover that. So in this section, if you were to read through the whole thing, I'm just gonna kind of read the key part here, the highlighted part that I have. I don't have the TV up here for the presentation part, but it says in there, except as otherwise provided here, no person shall construct or alter any structure, and then this is the part I was gonna highlight, is at or above the lowest extent of any approach zone, transition overlay zone, horizontal zone, or conical zone, unless having first submitted a permit to FAA, the FAA form 7460-1. So as I showed you guys that map, and it's like a 3D model, basically if you're at that height limit or above that, at that point then you get triggered to send this form to FAA. That's what it says in the ordinance. So as long as you're below that, you don't have to worry about it. But once you get to that bottom floor or above, then you gotta fill out this FAA form. And that's actually, the rules we found when we were researching this, it basically says anything, I don't remember the exact distance, I need to look it up now. I think it's anything within 15,000 feet of the airport, no matter what, you're supposed to be submitting that permit. Like regardless, we didn't know that. But like, if you're building a garage, or like, cause I know you live right over there, if you were doing like a shed or something, technically you're supposed to be sending this form to FAA. But nobody's, the city's never been enforcing that or anything.
Well, and most of the construction too is not gonna be even close to the,
No.
it's gonna be a one, yeah, but still, you're.
But like your neighbor where his house, you know, he had that fire and he's doing all that work, like technically he's supposed to be submitting
Right.
one of these forms to FAA.
Right.
So, and that basically covers like the whole city of Burlington, so,
Well, that's
like if you're
what I was
getting,
gonna say,
if you're building anything, basically you're supposed to be sending this, but,
So can I ask a question since you said that? When they go through the county for this kind of stuff, we're not gonna turn around and notify FAA about stuff, are we?
only if it's at or above, then we'll have them send this permit.
But not
Otherwise,
within it, not within just, if it doesn't hit that, just because it's within 15,000, whatever,
Yeah.
we're not gonna send.
we don't do it today and we're not doing it.
Don't ask, don't tell, I like it.
Yep, that's the idea. So that's the general thing, that's the height regulation. So if you go through further, there are some other general zone regulations that get it a little bit into use. The majority of this is really focused on not doing the height. But there are a few things that are in here, and most of this kind of comes from other ordinances as a list. I'm not even exactly sure what that word means, but I'll just go through some of these as an example. Establish any waste, landfill, or open air composting facilities.
Putrescible?
What's that? Yeah, I just skipped that word because I don't even want to try.
I suppose that means decayed, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if you're really that interested, I'll Google it real quick.
Looks
but
like putrid, you know, so that's the base word.
I'm guessing that's some kind of legal term. But
I just got a quick question.
yeah,
Hey, you know the armory,
yeah,
can the city tear that down?
yeah.
Or can the city tear that down?
Actually, I
If they
think
tear
they-
that down, they can't put anything else there, can
Correct. And actually, I think the airport owns it now.
they? Yeah. Do they?
Yes, I
Yeah.
believe
I
they
think
took
we bought
it from the
there,
city.
what, 3 years ago?
But the airport has to keep
I
that
don't
structure
remember
there if
it
they
well,
gotta
but I
utilize it, otherwise if it comes down, they cannot put
Yeah, they
anything else
won't,
up there.
I don't think they can build there because of the,
They tore that
See,
tab
that's not
down.
even in line with any of the, I don't understand that, because that's not any airplane's way of landing unless they're trying to land sideways.
There's a different way to do it.
Transitional zone or?
yeah, I need to,
Dude, it's no big, I just feel like some of the stuff is, you know, some of the stuff is Brian Carter, don't ask, don't tell me, but I mean, I understand that's something that you'd have to stick
I
with.
mean, if some kind of emergency, they're coming in at a weird angle, or who knows what's going on, but that's,
We just don't want to.
They're very, very sensitive on pretty much everything. Like I went through that drone training a couple of years ago or whatever, when me and a lot of the other IT directors, a lot of the other counties started getting drones. So I went up and did some of the training, and yeah, anytime you wanted to use a drone, anytime you thought about using a drone, you had to get permission from FAA first. The only stipulation of that is an absolute emergency if someone's life is in danger, and even then you gotta submit after the fact cause of why you decided to fly. So, anyway, they're very touchy about it.
That's so that there's no unidentified flying objects spotted.
Twilight Zone.
Okay, where you at?
All right, so there's a list. I can go, if you want me, I can read through these other regulations, but a lot of them have to do with things that have water that might create birds.
Yeah.
That's the thing, like with the landfill, the open air. There's stuff in here about radio interference, so not interfering with the planes. That gets to that 5G thing we were talking about the other day. Things in here about specific lighting that might screw up like their lighting system when you drive by there at night. You see all the lights that are for landing. So there's a few things in here that talk about placing lights in one of these protection zones that might alter, the field of vision. And then there's one in here about trees. I don't know that that's even really an enforceable one, but it says plant or allow the growth of any tree which during the normal life cycle of the tree can be expected to grow above one of these zones, but I mean, we wouldn't get a permit or anything for that anyway, so I don't know that one's really
I want to know
enforceable.
the list
What
of
is the
trees.
height? Is that-
I guess that would be more of a situation if it came to be a problem later, that it could be
It could
enforced,
be
that
enforced. Yep.
What if the airport can chop down your tree and charge them for it?
Yes, pretty much.
That's right, that's how it would go down.
Or there is some stuff in here about putting, if you didn't chop it down, you might have to put like some kind of marking on it or lighting on it or something, but.
What'd you say, Jim? What was your question?
What is the height of the zone?
That's what I was showing you last week on here.
Yeah,
Give you an
Batman,
example.
what's the height?
It's a 3D cone, so I walked through one of the definitions where it describes it, and I can read through it again if you want. This is
Well,
just
I
one.
look back here, but the elevation, it's just,
It's a running so
The
the
further you get
one
away.
I read to you was, because they're all a little bit different. The floor of the zone rises to the inner end, so 1 foot for each 34 of horizontal. So for every 34 feet, they'll go one, and then you go another 34 and 34, and so it just kind of stair steps its way from the end of the runway.
there's gonna be a max. That's what I was.
And then it goes out to 10,000 feet, so you keep doing that until you hit 10,000 feet, whatever that number is. I'd have to do the math.
10,000 or out 10,000?
And is it 10 or 15?
In this one, it's 10,000 feet.
Well, that's horizontal or vertical?
That is horizontal.
Yeah, that'd be a damn tall tree.
Yes, so you're going 1 foot high for every 34, so you take 10,000 divided by 34, or whatever that number is.
Yeah, the
300.
It's pretty high.
the further you get out from especially in the conical horizontal zones, the further you get out, it really takes like a really tall radio tower or wind turbine or something. There's very little, maybe a grain elevator or something like that. It'd be pretty extreme to even come close to
So the
this.
example I showed you guys last week goes from the end of the runway that would be like, it's a diagonal, it's like the northwest corner, going towards 61. So by the time you hit Highway 61, it gets up to about 45 feet. Which would be about a 3 to 4 story building. And then it just keeps getting higher and higher from there, so.
Aren't they gonna build a new apartment complex there, right on Mason? Next
That
to-
was the Beverly place, and that's what kind of triggered this whole thing.
That's what triggers
And they actually
They moved that.
moved it around the corner so it'd be a little further away. Cause it was like it was about 30 feet tall or something like that,
Yeah.
35, somewhere in there, so it was kind of right at the border.
It's on one of those streets.
But
where the
each of
middle
these zones
school-
has a little bit different descriptions, so
Yeah.
those heights, the one I just described was for every 34th one, but some of them are just a little bit different. And I mean, if we want, we can read through them, but they're all
No,
defined,
no,
they're all
no,
defined in
no,
there,
I just-
exactly what they are. We've got maps here that are on the county GIS site, so you can see what they are.
When they started talking about trees, that, you know, you're gonna take an awful tall tree, because we, airports are all fenced off anyway. They come in.
We're gonna lead by example, we should probably cut all of Shane's trees down.
Yeah.
Yeah, that way I won't have any leaves to rake up. Good point. I like
Well,
everything BC.
the wind blows your neighbors, that's a fact, I think. It goes right into your yard.
That's right.
Tom got rid of his trees
Your-
years
your-
ago, I still got them.
Your neighbors will appreciate you not having one, because there's no leaves to blow into their yard.
The leaves function on a don't ask, don't tell.
Okay, there's, let's see, 58.07 is about lighting and markings, and this actually gets to kind of what you said, Shane. This is where, and this is basically if you have to submit one of those permits. The key thing is any person constructing or altering any structure located in any zone created by this ordinance shall install lighting and markings upon said structure as shall be recommended by the FAA. So if you have to submit one of those, if you're at or above the zone, you have to submit some FAA. If they come back to you and tell you you need to do some kind of lighting or marking based on a certain structure you have, that you have to do that. Okay.
You can't put a red light on yours since you got your license.
As long as it's approved by the FAA, I can, though, Jim. I'm tall, I'm big.
I'm gonna go by and I'm gonna say, there's that minister that's got a red light running on his house all the time.
It does list in here too that the airport, that it could be at the landowner's expense, but then it also does say that it could be at the airport's expense based on a certain situation. Section 58.08 is about existing and future uses, and basically it just says in here that for an existing use, so for some reason there's, and we haven't evaluated this to really know, but if there was some use that's already out there that's above, at or above one of these zones, you can't make that a greater hazard than it is today, so you couldn't build it higher than where it is today. And then
Sort of an inverse, similar thing with floodplain, where you have buildings that are below the base flood elevation. If it's there as a non-conforming use today, but if you add on to it and make it more of an obstruction to the floodwaters, then that's a problem, so.
Yep. And then basically it says any future uses, you need to get a local permit. You guys come see us and get a permit. And the idea is there, so if it's in the zone, we would get a permit for it, but you wouldn't have to get an FAA permit unless you're at or above the zone. There's a section on non-conforming uses, and this actually states something very similar to what's said above on existing use. It says, I'm trying to find it here. Oh, that's what I was looking for at the bottom, non-conforming use or abandoned. And whenever the administrative agency says we determines that non-conforming structure is abandoned for 1 year or more, this is actually, we used similar language that we have in our zoning ordinance here. So if there's a use that's a non-conforming use, so you're at or above one of those zones, but you left that property, it's been abandoned for at least a year, or it got damaged somehow, of an extent of 60% or more, that you will not get a new permit to allow it to be a non-conforming use moving forward. That's one special condition we put in there, but otherwise it's the same as what we had there for that existing use that I just said, that an existing non-conforming use cannot become a greater hazard. So if you already don't meet the height restriction, that's fine, but you just can't make it a bigger hazard. But we addressed the issue of if it for some reason becomes abandoned or damaged, because unfortunately that kind of thing does happen from time to time. There is a section about variances. As a quick overview in here, that would be section 5810. It provides a process for a variance based on submitting application or enforcement of the regulations that will result in unnecessary hardship. That's pretty much what we do for our zoning ordinance as well. It's the same thing. If for some reason you're gonna have an unnecessary hardship because of regulations, you submit for a variance, and then you go through a process where you can be granted to have a non-conforming use. There's a section, the next section is on administrative procedures. And that basically just says it's the responsibility of whoever the designee is to enforce. So in this case, it would be the county and the land use department. But then because this actually impacts several communities, so Burlington will be in charge of the ordinance for Burlington, West Burlington's in charge of administering for West Burlington. One of the new things in here, different things about this, and this is a state code requirement. State code requires you to have a specific airport zoning commission and airport board of adjustment. And it's made up of, I'll just read it here. This is straight from state code. So we were looking at ways to just utilize like existing boards and commissions that are already in place, but I don't think we could necessarily do that. We've kind of got an idea of a workaround, but it says in here, this is for the zoning commission pursuant to section 329.9 of Iowa State Code. There shall be a Southeast Iowa Airport Zoning Commission consisting of 7 members, 2 of whom shall be appointed by the City of Burlington, 2 by West Burlington, and 2 by the Board of Supervisors, and then 1 member who would be selected by a majority vote of the city and county appointed members. The purpose of the Airport Zoning Commission is to recommend amendments to the regulations themselves or to repeal the regulations. So their job is really just to evaluate this ordinance and decide if something needs to be changed. And our thought is we take 2 members of like the county zoning commission and just ask them if they would participate as the Airport Zoning Commission, and same thing for Burlington, West Burlington. Same thing with the Board of Adjustment. Again, this is required by state code, a similar setup consisting of 7 members, 2 of whom shall be from Burlington, 2 from West Burlington, 2 from the Board of Supervisors, and 1
Can they be the
appointed.
same? Can the Board of, can the zoning commission be on the Board of Adjustment?
I don't think it would.
I suppose you probably could, but I don't know that we would do that. I think what we would try to do is find 2 members that are on the county's current zoning commission and ask if 2 of them would just serve as members for Airport Zoning Commission. Honestly, I don't know that I ever see these really meeting. It'd be extremely rare.
Has there ever been a need for an Airport Board of Adjustment?
And then the Airport Board of Adjustment, so we have a county board of adjustment, it'd be the same thing. I think we just ask 2 members that are on our existing board. If we ever have a meeting for this, would you be willing to serve and be the members? So that's how we envision it. And we talked to Burlington, West Burlington, they would recommend doing the same thing. We all have trouble finding people. So, for the Board of Adjustment, their purpose, would be to hear and decide appeals where there's an alleged error in any order, requirement, decision, or determination made by the administrating office, which would be the land use office, and to hear and decide requests for variances. So if they think we did something wrong, they can go to them and ask for an appeal, or if they think the regulation would be a hardship to them, they can go to them and ask for a variance. Which is just that's what we do for zoning. We just, like I mentioned, we had a Board of Adjustment meeting last week for a variance request. The rest of the items in here, I don't think I was really gonna go through them. There's a thing about prohibited acts. A thing about conflicting regulations that basically says if there is a conflicting regulation, whichever one is more stringent, that's what you're supposed to use. Thing about equitable remedies. These are all kind of just legal things. Severability. And and then there's a section on enforcement of penalties, and this is actually, we may need to evaluate this. This is exactly the same as what we talked to you guys about in the zoning ordinance, so I don't remember. if you made a few-
I looked at that too, and I found a way to switch them both.
Yeah, so we're gonna make a few minor adjustments after we had conversation about that with you guys. Was that last week or 2 weeks ago, whatever that was? So we'll make a few adjustments to that after our conversation, but that's the exact same language that was in the zoning ordinance on enforcement and penalties, and that's everything that's in here. Again, this went through Trent at the attorney's office. The city of Burlington one is pretty much an exact image of this. The enforcement penalties is a little different because it fits whatever they have in their code, but, and then a few of those things reference, obviously, kind of their staff. But it's the exact same setup, and, so this is the same in each community, each entity, so I don't know if anybody has questions, or I don't know if I hit 30 minutes, I think I did.
Yeah.
I went through it pretty quick, but I just wanted to give you
Nice
kind of the
job.
highlights and what it's about.
I don't have anything.
Well,
I thought it was like an applause or.
Great
Great
job.
Round, yeah, you got an announcement to make. You got some
But
great
good
work.
job. I know this isn't the most pleasing of work, going through and cleaning up stuff, but it's still needed, still gotta get her done, so. yeah, good-
Thank
good
you.
job.
It's been way too much time. Well, from here, what we'll do is we'll work with Sarah and Terry about getting public hearing for subdivision, zoning, and this airport regulations. Probably, I don't know how much time, it'd probably be about 2 to 3 weeks, I would guess.
On both of them.
I don't know that the notice would be out in time for next week, so I think it'd
Yeah,
probably have to
2
be at
weeks
least 2
probably.
2
weeks.
weeks, probably.
And then we'll have the copies here, and then we might have a little memo with just some of the other little things we've changed after we've had a work session. Our work sessions, because we had a couple things that we've talked about that we've kind of adjusted and tweaked a little bit.
I think the ordinance, that has to be printed when it's published, doesn't it? In final
And
form.
at least an overview, yes,
This is
and
important, yeah.
I think Jared's already.
Yeah, we
got-
did similar thing
got-
with the floodplain ordinance, where we looked at the specific requirements there, and a lot of communities will just publish the whole thing in lieu of doing the summary, just because they're not exactly sure how to summarize the most important details there, and that takes extra time, but we figured, especially given that the zoning ordinance is 80 pages, that it'd be much easier to do it this way if possible, so we have a summary that we prepared, and that's what we used in initially having our work session discussion, so.
And we verified that process too, that it was okay to
Yeah.
do the review with the attorney's office here, and then we contacted a few other, I think we talked to somebody at Iowa
Public
State, and
access
then another
to-
agency.
Yeah,
just to, like,
there
make
will,
sure
there
that-
will, the notice in the paper will have a direct link to the county website where the full ordinance is referenced.
But yeah, have to be a 3 reading thing unless you wanna waive the 3rd reading, it'll be all that kind of stuff, so. But yeah, we'll do a quick highlight of some of the things that we've talked about here that we changed too, just so we can let you know that we amended those things that we've talked about.
Sounds good to me.
Okay,
Thank you, gentlemen.
thank you, it's been way too
A long
long. I
time.
think we'll be very excited to.
Working on this since last year.
Push this aside so we can work on some other, and we do have a couple other little things we need to do with this, that are mostly ready, but we've got some application, we're kinda updating all the applications and forms too, to make sure they're up to date, streamlined, and then.
And there's the fee
some
structure thing,
Yeah, we
too.
gotta do the fee structure, which we talked about last week, so we'll bring that in, and then there's just some things on the website too, we're gonna try and clean up just to make it a little more user-friendly, so that all tie back to this, but we wanted to get through the ordinance stuff first, to make sure it was all a go before we made some of those changes, so. So yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Jared?
Yeah.
Okay, if we're gonna do the evaluation of that RFQ, do we need that video turned off?
The YouTube stuff,
Well,
Yeah.
YouTube's off, but I mean, is that,
it wasn't
I don't know.
off during our interviews.
wasn't it? Okay, that's fine.
And I forgot to mention, Krista, she did talk about coming back, I don't know.
I texted her.
You did text her?
Just
Okay.
texted her, so it'll probably be a few
Oh,
minutes.
That's fine.
do we,
Do we record?
Did we record the other
Yeah,
one?
I don't
Okay.
think
I was
so.
gonna
We
say
didn't
it's not-
record those.
No,
and
we
the-
didn't.
The board doesn't make a decision until you vote on it in a meeting.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So I don't think any of this is public I still don't think any of that's a public process at this
I-
point.
I don't
I just
think
wanted to
either,
make
sort
sure.
of like, well, it's not like a personnel, but it's a,
Well, you're,
yeah.
the group's deliberating, but the board's.
Hey, Jared.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jared.
You're single, aren't you?
Yeah.